What is up, guys? DT Ninja here to give you guys my RuroKen Hokkaido Arc Chapter 35 discussion. Okay, guys, I know this is a little late, but a lot of things are going on, and I really haven't had time to do this. But here it is. I actually picked up new items. This is the Restoration Remix. I will leave the link in the description. There is a video that I shared more on this. Also, I picked up this just recently. This is RuroKen Jump, and in the same video that I left the link in the description, I count down the top 10 battles of Kenshin voted by the fans, so you guys can check that out. And yeah, let's get to the discussion. So, this chapter was pretty awesome, right? We went from Otaru, we transitioned to Hakodate, and finally we go to Sapporo. A little bit of each, front. So, we're going to discuss a few things, and then after that, after the main discussion, I have some spoilers. So, the first thing, who is the man that escaped from the Kinkaku Heki's main base? Now, when Ono explains to Sonosuke that there's a man who infiltrated the base, and he knows the location and left. He escaped the base. They're supposed to be hunted down, right? He said without exception, they're usually eliminated. So this was Honda's last mission. He was supposed to hunt that guy down, but who is that man? Who is that man? I came to the conclusion that it's probably Koshijiro Kamiya, Kaoru's father. Now, why? Basically, based on the information that we have, the photograph that was taken of him, the one that the Yami Nobu had, and on the envelope it said Kin, which we now know means Kinkaku Heki. So we know there's a connection there that would make sense that he is the one who was in the base. Now, my real question is, how did he get there in the first place? How did he infiltrate this base without, proper knowledge? Or did he learn of it somewhere? Where did he learn where the location is? Because we don't know where the HQ is. We don't know where the main base is. Now, I looked at several mountains all over Hokkaido, and I came to the conclusion that Asahi Dake is the main base. Now, that is based on just looking at all the mountains, throughout Hokkaido. And I kind of did a comparison between the two, the actual mountain in the volume and the actual mountain in real life. So we got like the actual mountain to compare it to. So I want you to take a look at this. Okay, guys, so as you can see, it is very similar. Now, it's not the exact same thing, but it does give us, some interesting insight to a possibility. So, Asahi Dake could be the location. It's kind of further away from Sapporo and obviously Hakodate, but it also is an important location. So I feel like that probably is where it is. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but that's just my thinking. How did he get there in the first place? Well, when Ono was talking about his past and how the children had to leave the base, I remember Byakuya back in chapter 18 explained the same exact thing, that he left the base and they had to train and fight over and over. But to me, Byakuya was fighting on his own. This is interesting because Byakuya kept saying I had to fight over and over and just fight and kill, fight and kill. It almost seemed like he was alone while the other children are fighting, in a group. That's just my feeling on it. But what if Kamiya Koshijiro is a spy for the government? He is undercover and he is trying to locate the Kinkaku Heki and infiltrates them. Now, how did he figure out the base? I don't know. But maybe he came across some of these children while they're training. I mean, he's been there for a while, right? So this seems like to be, a continuing thing. So this clan that has children scattered throughout Hokkaido, they're training. They obviously grow that way. They're not going to be children all the time. They're going to grow up. So maybe he came across some of these adults that are training still, that are Kinkaku Heki. Maybe not they're not the best, but he came across them, and maybe he learned some information. Maybe he learned about, maybe some surroundings that could give him clues to the location. Or maybe he even helped some of these children or adults that were training and being tortured by the clan. So that's another possibility as to why maybe he has this information and why he's escaped. Maybe he has even some of these members on his side. Maybe that's a possibility. But anyways, I found it interesting, and there is a possibility there. Number 2, what do you think Sano was thinking when he asks Ono, do you have any last requests before you go? Because he's about to die, and Ono says, beware of Hakodate. I wish you the best of luck. Those were his last words to Sonosuke Sagara. He says, Sonosuke Sagara, I wish you the best of luck. Instead of telling him, my family, I need to tell them this, he tells him, beware of Hakodate. He's basically, be careful, Sonosuke. This was really heartfelt. It was probably shocking to Sonosuke as well. I mean, think about it. He's kind of a stranger. They fought each other, so they do know a little bit about each other, but Sonosuke doesn't know the background of Ono and how he grew up. He did tell him a little bit, but at the same time, he's not real familiar with him. So he was trying to relay information to his family, and it just seemed to me that maybe he doesn't have any family. I mean, Sonosuke is the only one that ever, besides Kanzato, that's another thing. Kanzato, one of the main commanders, seemed to be someone he greatly respected. And we saw him in that flashback when he was knocked out. He was with him. And remember, he said that this world is a cruel and merciless place. He said that. And Sonosuke said those same exact words. So that kind of hit, a chord with him. And he was like, wow, this guy is interesting. It's almost like he kind of respected him the same way as, that commander. And to tell him his last words, to be careful, that had to be shocking to Sonosuke. I mean, he went as far to help him out and tell him a little bit about, the Kinkaku Heki and their upbringing. So that was interesting. But I have to say Sonosuke probably was shocked. Shocked to find out that he has no last words for his family, or maybe he doesn't even have a family. The closest person to him in that situation is Sonosuke. So that's pretty sad and shocking. But anyways, why do you think that Kenshin and Kaoru's house is so extravagant? Now, they have a new house, right? They were in the hotel, the inn before, but now they've moved locations. Now, it's smart to move a location. They're going to be in Hokkaido for a while, so this is a kind of a more permanent residence while they're there. Now, it is temporary, but, it's more of a permanent one rather than just the inn. So why is it so extravagant? You got the Frank Lloyd Wright architecture. It's very beautiful. It's 1900s. I mean, you can see that there's a little of an anachronism. That means that the time period doesn't match 1884. Now, 1884 is the 16th year of the Meiji. 1900s is obviously later on. However, I do like the fact that he even used his characters like Kenshin and Sonosuke to say, I've never seen anything like this. I've been in America. And then Kenshin's like, it's like, jumping through time, twisting through time. It's really an incredible experience. And Kaoru says, I don't care about the details. It's almost like he's saying, it doesn't matter to me whether or not it's historically accurate with the time period. This house needed to be in the story. It's unique. And I like that. But why? Why is it so extravagant? I have to think that it's not only extravagant because you want to feel comforting. Even Kenshin said he feels very comfortable here. But also safe. I feel like it's a safe house almost because the way it's situated is at Hiorizaka, which is a slope. It's basically on a slant. So if you've ever been to Japan, especially Hakodate, there's like kind of like a slope. It's like a slant, and you'll see there are houses in this area. It's the last place I feel that the Kinkaku Heki would look for, in this situation, Kenshin's house. I don't think they'll ever find it because that's just the last place I think they'll look. It's an extravagant house. Also, I like the fact that Anji is actually gonna be there with them. He even said, I like the fact that you guys are here to keep watch over my family. I want that, and I like that. We saw, Kenji and Sojiro. That was great. And then, of course, you have the Jupon Gatana kind of laying out there. But there's more reason to it. It's not just they're lounging around. They're actually protecting Kenshin and his family. And I like that. So, pretty interesting. Like I said, the Jupon Gatana are planning to use the house as a base, as like a camp to set up to see where things are situated throughout Hokkaido, throughout Hakodate, and where the Kinkaku Heki could be planning to strike. So it's also a good place for them to, locate. So I do like that. Okay, next thing. Doesn't it seem like Sonosuke is much more responsible now? Now, what I mean by that is that he is much more mature, okay? We've seen this as he returned, right? He's always been kind of carefree, but also kind of like just taking things for granted, like Kaoru's kindness. He doesn't pay her back, right? He goes to the Akabeko and he doesn't pay his bill. But here in this chapter, he's telling the children, he's telling Asahi, Aran and Ashitaro, you guys should you really be spending your money? It's almost like a parent telling their child, you really should think about, saving rather than spending your money. And it's funny because Sonosuke never saved money. He never had money to begin with. So it's interesting to see kind of his development and his maturity on that level. I'm going to go back to, I think it's chapter 23 or 24. It's where the three idiots, Ashitaro, Aran, and Asahi, that's what Sonosuke calls them, they try to take advantage of Kenshin and Kanryo when they meet. They have that midnight meeting, and they're thinking they're going to get money off of it. And after it, you can see Sonosuke just chews them out. He chews them out, and you can see they're very apologetic, and it just seems like they have great respect. They listen to him, and he gets on them because Kenshin doesn't have that just do what I tell you kind of attitude. Now, he has told Ashitaro certain things. I feel like he sees Ashitaro more like a son than the others, but I feel like the trio themselves, all three together, I feel Sonosuke really does care about them and really gets on them like he's their parent. So it was interesting to see that even in this chapter. Also, even going further than that, when they go back to the house, when everyone's going out for drinks, even the kids, at least Asahi, because she's 17, she's going out with the Jupon Gatana. Sonosuke says, well, I'm going to go and let you guys, leave you guys alone for a little while. He motions to Kaoru and says, take care of Kenshin for me. He knew that Kenshin was suffering. He knew that he was exhausted. And we see Kenshin collapse into Kaoru's arms. And that was really nice to see too, because then Kaoru's like, well, he's your best friend. That's how he knows. He knows, and he's really looking out for both of us. And I like that about Sonosuke. Sonosuke's character has developed and at a great maturity. I do like what's happening here with Sonosuke. And another thing, remember, you can be concerned about Kenshin and his, stamina, but Sano is going to be there to lend his strength to make sure that Kenshin is not going to go overboard. That's another thing. We've seen it several times where Kenshin almost collapses, and even Kaoru is concerned that Kenshin might not make it back, but Sonosuke promised to Kaoru that he is going to be there for them and make sure that doesn't happen. So he's his best friend, so he's not going to allow that to happen. So even if you guys are concerned that Kenshin may die in this arc, I don't think it's going to happen because Sonosuke is going to be there. He's going to be that strength. He's got Sojiro on his side. He's got the Jupungatana. So he's surrounding himself with these warriors that are going to lift him up, even though that he doesn't have the high stamina that he used to have to use the Hiten Mitsurugi. So yeah. Okay, what are the Kinkaku Heki planning? Because in Hakodate, you have, on Mount Hakodate, they're building a castle, like a fortification. And this to me kind of reminds me of history. Back in the Bakumatsu era, 1869, I guess it wouldn't be Bakumatsu, but technically in Hokkaido it kind of was. It was the Battle of Hakodate. So you had the Kinkaku Heki. They were kind of spying. Well, I wouldn't say spying. They're watching it happen in Goryokaku. And we see this in chapter 30 in Ono's flashback. He's knocked out by Sonosuke, and we see him with a telescope looking at Goryokaku's damage, and they're just watching, and that's where Kanzato tells him that this world is a cruel and merciless place. So it's interesting to see that, but I was thinking about it. Look at this location where it looks like they're kind of, they're similar to the mount, they're near the mountains, but they're kind of in a forest-like area. What if that area is Shiriokaku? What if that area where they're looking out on that battlefield? Because they're not in the battle. They're just kind of spotting it out. What if that area is Shiriokaku? The exact location where the gathering happens in this chapter, where they're all of the Kanzato and all of the Kabato prison attack squad all are gathering. What if that area is that place? That would be very interesting, and it gives you an idea of how they operate. They really use history to relive it, because if they're using the same location, that might give us an idea of how to go forward in our strategy to counterattack. Okay, they're using all these historical places. Now, Goryokaku is very historical. Byakuya is there, right? That's where the Battle of Hakodate took place. But so did Shiriokaku. Shiriokaku was built during that time as a fortification. It got destroyed, so now they're on a field. But that is historical at the same time. So you can see kind of how they operate, and maybe we could use this as a strategy to counterattack, like I said. And Kenshin and Anji kind of talk about this, using Henya to go across and kind of spot what's going on. So they do have some sort of idea of how things are going. But it is interesting in how we go forward. Okay, the next thing. How much blood does Byakuya have to lose in order to regulate his brilliance? Brilliance is Sekiriki. It is the red eyes that Ono showed in the past battles with Sonosuke, and also Honda showed it against Aran and Kanryu. So how much blood does he have to lose? We saw that he fought multiple times the Kuzuryu-sen. I think he took 4 Kuzuryu-sen straight on and bled out quite a bit, right? We saw he was gushing out blood, but he was just laughing. And now we kind of understand why. He was waiting for that opportunity so that when he was knocked out, right? But when he wakes up, his blood would be enough regulated so he could finally use it. Now, who is he going to fight next? Who is Byakuya going to fight next? How strong is this guy? I mean, he took 4 Kuzuryu-sens. Now, they're Kenshin's Kuzuryu-sens, so Kenshin has a small body, but he has quite a bit of power. But remember what Hiko said. Even with the Kuzuryu-sen, your Kuzuryu-sen will never be as good as mine because I'm much bigger than you. So I was thinking about it. What if Byakuya faces against Master Hiko? How badass would that be? Master against Byakuya. I mean, this guy's huge. He's got this bulky kind of build, and he's got like the plate springs, you know, that he can block bullets, and even like the attack power of certain attacks. But now with Sekiriki, that would be just epic to see Master Hiko go all out against Byakuya. Yeah, anyways, that's just my feeling. Maybe even Fuji would enter the fray, because remember, Hiko and Fuji kind of had that respect towards one another in their battle in the Kyoto arc. And also Fuji is in Hokkaido, so that would make sense. But yeah, that's my thinking. Maybe even Enishi would be a good opponent. But yeah, what do you guys think? I just don't think Kenshin is going to be able to withstand Byakuya's full power. I mean, you saw how exhausted he was just from, fighting him without Sekiriki. So that's just my personal opinion. I know that Byakuya wants to fight Batosai, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Okay, next thing. How will Saito and Nagakura fight Hyobei? Hyobei is a dual wielder, okay? He has 2 swords. It looks like Saito's sword is broken. We need to know where he got that sword, okay? We're probably going to find out a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe it's just, an ordinary sword. I don't know. But there's also a possibility that Nagakura handed him his sword. I hope that's not the case because it's already broken. It's possible it could be the same sword. He could be that stubborn. Remember when we saw Kenshin worried about him, that killer instinct has kind of been taken away after Byakuya broke his arm. It almost like he broke his swordsman spirit as well. And we've kind of seen that vulnerability of him. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, does Nagakura have a hidden secret up his sleeve? Because as he is damaged against Hyobei, the skull, mask man, commander of Kinkaku Heki, but he had a smirk on his face. And remember, he does have, that technique up his sleeve where he faced against Sojiro. It's called Sanrin Dosa. It literally paralyzes the attacker that comes on, and when they clash, it literally is able to stop the momentum. So it'll be interesting to see what he has up his sleeve, or maybe he has 2 swords to use. He does have 2 swords, and it's not uncommon for samurai to use, but maybe he even knows dual wielding. That would be interesting, because we saw the Miyamoto Musashi and Takeo Hattori's references in this chapter. But yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about. Okay, guys, the last thing is the spoilers. Now, originally this was going to be my last discussion question, but the spoilers are taking precedence here because it is part of the spoilers. So, chapter 36. Basically, Sapporo's Shinsengumi. Yes, guys, it's going to be about the Shinsengumi and Sapporo, the northern capital. I cannot wait to fully translate this, but I have translated some of it, so I'm going to share some of the details. Okay, so first thing, Nagakura is holding a map, and it looks like the city of Kyoto. He's kind of having a little nostalgia. As he's walking down the street, he's talking to Saito like, man, this brings me back to the old days when we were young and immature. And suddenly they come across the police in Sapporo, and there's a crowd surrounding them. Not surrounding them, but surrounding the police. They're looking at some bodies, and there's dead bodies, there's corpses, and on the walls, there's blood smeared. And on the wall, it's actually written in kanji. It's actually a message. So what it says is the commander of Kinkaku Heki, Hyobei, and it says assassinate, basically / it's his vindication for taking out the villain. He considers these people villains. And apparently, these guys are like ministers or something like that, ministry bureaucrats or something like that. So they're obviously targeting some kind of political people. These aren't like police officers, they're political people. So it's interesting that he's targeting certain people. But yeah, I like how the blood actually says Hyobe, and it actually says his first name, which is So. So Hyobe is his full name. So we learn that the commander literally is the one behind it. Now, they don't know him because they haven't met him, but we do get an idea, a little mystery there. I translated the blood, so I'm giving it to you right there. But since we know they're the ones that he fights, so that's probably why. But anyways, very interesting stuff. Okay, now, they go to the police station in Sapporo and they meet Ichikawa. Ichikawa is the leader of the Kinkaku Heki task force. Now, remember when we had the Kira task force in Death Note, okay? It was all designed to face Kira. We have the same thing here. It's the police trying to face off against Kinkaku Heki and discover their motives and stop them. Do everything they can to stop them. Think of it like that. And think of it like when Nagakura and Saito step in, they're like celebrities compared to these police officers. So they're former Shinsengumi. So I mean, like, they're just going to be looked at like the ones in charge. But Ichikawa doesn't like that. He's like, I'm the one in charge here. You listen and obey me. And it's really funny because Nagakura just starts talking like it's no big deal, you know. Well, have you thought of this? Maybe we should do this. Maybe I should station someone, send you a representative, and then they can report back to me. No, you speak to when you're told, you know. He's like, don't speak out so freely. So he gets getting pissed off because Saito and Nagakura basically hijack his meeting without, you know, just basically they're just talking freely, and he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that. But it's great. It's great to see because Saito and Nagakura really have a presence in that meeting. So they kind of get the idea that, you know, Ichikawa is, you know, they're really pissed off. So finally the meeting's over. They go home. In their inn, they're at kind of like a hotel inn, and you have Eiji is there sitting eating dinner, and Eiji turns to Saito and he's like, what is the history behind the Shinsengumi? And Saito kind of looks at him like, why do you want to know that? You know, like he's doesn't want to tell him. I guess he's kind of ashamed. I don't really know why, but he's like, no, stop asking. You know, don't ask. And so what does he do? He turns to Nagakura and he's like, old man, what is the Shinsengumi? Can you tell me? So Nagakura opens up about the Shinsengumi, and we see the history behind it. We see what happens. And then all of a sudden he mentions Abara no Koji, which is something that Saito said at the very end of the last chapter, which is interesting because it involves Takeo Hattori. It also involves Isami Kondo, their commander. Now, apparently, Asami Kondo is shot with a rifle. He's shot with a shotgun, not a rifle. He's shot with a shotgun, and he's basically wounded really badly. And this is the turning point, he says, and it is really crippling for the Shinsengumi. So it's interesting. That's when Saito kind of opens up more, and he tells him that our commander was shot by a Gordio officer at Abara no Koji. So this was a serious, incident. But anyways, I like how he opened up about the Shinsengumi. I like how we learn more about it. But yeah, we're gonna learn about Shinsengumi in this chapter, so look forward to it. Okay, the last thing, Ichikawa is sitting there, and he's kind of, just drinking, and he's talking to some of these politicians and his friends, and suddenly he has this smirk on his face, and we see this guy in the background, and he's a new character, and obviously this is a character he wants to bring in to help take out the Kinkaku Heki. He's got a tie, he's got a suit, so he's some kind of political figure, I think. I don't know, but maybe there's some shady business going on here. I'm not exactly sure. But anyways, guys, that's my discussion. That has been my spoilers for chapter 36. I am about 10 pages in, so if you're wondering on my progress, there are 21 pages, so expect it probably in 3-4 days. The chapter, I will try to get it out as soon as possible, but it will be out next week. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.